It is Sunday, January 11th, and there hasn't been a better day to be alive as a Virginia Tech fan that I can think of in quite some time on a January 11th. Look, I came at you about 3 or 4 days ago. I think it was on Thursday of last week, and we talked about everything that happened in the portal up until that point. I thought it was a lot then. Went to the Duke game this weekend, and a whole lot else happened. So, going to catch you up to speed on everything that's going on and also talk a little bit about kind of where I think Coach Franklin's head is at with this class and what we're trying to accomplish. I think some of it's obvious, and I think some of it deserves a second look. So that's what we're going to do today. What I'm also going to start doing is sharing this at the beginning of these episodes. What are we looking at? We are looking at the On3 Transfer Portal Index rankings. I'm going to hit refresh right now at 840, and bang! Virginia Tech is still in the top 10. They are still in the top 5, and now they are in the top 3. Top 3 on the On3 Transfer Portal Index rankings. Now, I got some questions following last week, and if you're not on YouTube, I'll read them out to you. So, first is Texas Tech, second is Louisville, third is Virginia Tech, fourth Texas A&M, fifth Ole Miss, sixth Indiana. Again, unbelievable what we're doing right now, and a lot of folks were asking, hey, like, why are we using On3 for these rankings versus 24/7, or why did you settle on On3? The reason I'm on On3, and I have my problems with On3, and I have my things that I like about On3. It's this simple. On3's Transfer Portal Index rankings take into account who you're losing in the transfer portal versus who you are bringing in, whereas 24/7, essentially what they're doing is giving you a grade based upon the stars, quote unquote, that are coming in and not taking into account who is going out. So James Franklin obviously doing a tremendous job at flipping this roster, and we'll kind of go over some of the positions that he's prioritizing. I will do this, and it is not a form of trolling. It really just is. I mean, look, you guys continue to bring this up. We really don't. Penn State sitting 53rd. Virginia Tech sitting 3rd in the Transfer Portal Index rankings. Again, I'm not looking for issues with Penn State. It just seems that it almost like this week they were rooting for Tennessee to land more of their players to stick it to Virginia Tech, which I thought was funny. But anyway, if you're a Penn State fan, let us know. Let us know what the beef is here. Apparently the ding dong, the witch is dead for you guys. I would assume just move on and let bygones be bygones. But we're having a great time over here. So here was the last update that I gave. So this was essentially every person that we had brought in since 2026 that I covered this last update. So that's Missouri edge Javon Hilson. That's Louisiana running back Bill Davis. UConn corner Cam Chadwick. Troy cornerback Jaquez White. Penn State linebacker Keon Wiley. Michigan State offensive tackle Justin Bell. Penn State edge rusher Daniel Jennings. Penn State wide receiver and tight end Jeff Exenor Jr. and Oklahoma offensive tackle Logan Howland. So that's everything that happened basically from January 1st to January 8th, January 7th. So to get you up to speed to what happened since the 8th, we're now at the 11th. This is the one that kind of stole the headlines. Pete Thamel put this one out. This is huge. People kind of have expected this one because he did go into the portal with a do not contact tag when he went to the portal. But that's tight end Luke Reynolds from Penn State. He was a 5-star recruit in high school. He is from Cheshire, Connecticut, 6'4", 253 pounds. He is a sophomore, so he has 2 years left. 26 catches, 257 yards this season. He's the top-rated tight end in the transfer portal according to 24/7, the second-rated tight end in the transfer portal according to ESPN. This is a huge get. This is a get that I don't want to call it the crown jewel, but it is certainly one of them. Absolutely, I mean, you can argue right now one of the most talented players that have come into Virginia Tech. Granted, it's from the transfer portal, but really, really excited to get him into town. And this is national news. This is, Pete Thamel broke this, and then everybody went ahead and announced it as well. But for him to solidify his commitment and for the fact that he's going to be playing at Virginia Tech as a former 5-star recruit out of the state of Connecticut is pretty wild. So Here are some of the other things that happened literally just today. We also landed Penn State offensive lineman Michael Troutman III from DePaul Catholic in New Jersey. He has 4 years left. We landed Ohio State defensive tackle Eric Mensah. Now, you may remember Eric Mensah because he was a Virginia Tech commit back in 2023. 6'2", 302 pounds. So with Kelvin Gilliam leaving and just kind of the different style of football that we're going to be playing and the different style of transparently recruit that we're going to be able to bring in, getting guys that are a legitimate, bona fide 300 pounds in the middle of your defense and on the offensive line is something that's obviously going to be paramount, and he checks that box. So he's coming in. He was the 11th ranked recruit in the state of Virginia for the 2024 class. He is going to have 3 years of eligibility left. So that was a big one, and I think a rather surprising one. I didn't see as much rumbling about Eric Mensah as I had seen about some of the other names. So there are things that are happening that people may kind of have seen writing on the wall, and then there are things that are kind of coming completely out of left field. So I felt like that was one of them. We also landed 2 edge rushers from Penn State as well. We landed Cortez Harris. He was a top 15 player in the state of Maryland, 6'3", 245 with 4 years left. And then also, I'm going to need some help with this name, Malachi, M-Y-L-A-C-H-I Williams. That is no disrespect. I just need to learn, and when he's on Hokie Sports, I will become familiar. He's a top 15 player in Pennsylvania, 6'3", 252 with 3 years left. So that all happened today. Either during my drive back from Duke, which we'll talk about at the end, or since I've been laying on the couch, or at Trader Joe's. Actually at Trader Joe's when we landed, I think it was Eric Mensah. That's where I posted that pic. So anyway, none of you care. So outside of what happened today, here's some other news. On the previous update, I had mentioned that Kamarian Morgan, he was a top 15 edge in the portal. He had visited Virginia Tech during that Stanford game. So yes, he got to see Okori score or assist on 40 of the 42 final points that Stanford scored. But that loss did not defray him from coming to Tech. This is a big get, 6'5", 251 pounds, 3 years left. Again, top 15 edge in the portal. Really, really, really fired up to have him in the boat along with the Missouri edge as well. I believe this raises it to 4 defensive ends that we've brought in, which is huge, again, with multiple years left. So we'll talk a little bit about kind of experience versus upside in a little bit here. We also landed Duke wide receiver Keyshawn Brown. He had 846 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns last year. I mean, out of everybody we're bringing in, Keyshawn Brown is up there with one of the most productive players that we're bringing in versus upside. He's a 5'8", 165-pound sophomore. He just wrapped up his sophomore season, so he does have 2 years of eligibility left. Had an awesome bowl game for Duke. Really explosive player. Excited to get him in the building. I know a lot of folks are kind of saying, hey, we really need like the 6'4" wide receiver, the 6'4", 210-pound wide receiver. I don't know if we'll end up with that. Again, I don't know who's going to play, who's not going to play, but I do anticipate that, again, with the name, I think it's Quayshawn. I think he's going to play this upcoming year. Again, really productive at Duke, and I think he's going to be a difference maker for Virginia Tech coming up here in this upcoming year. We also landed Louisiana Tech wide receiver Marlian Jackson, 6'2", 205. A little some size, some beef. 370 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns this past year. He is one of the rare 1 year of eligibility left guys that we are bringing in this season. So we also added UNC quarterback Bryce Baker. He was the 12th ranked quarterback in the 2025 class. Had to walk in out of Bill Belichick's door, 6'3", 205. He has 4 years of eligibility left. And then lastly, we added Marshall punter Nathan Toten. He's got 2 years of eligibility left. So coming up from Huntington, West Virginia. So that's all that happened. So literally, since I spoke to you on the 8th, we added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 players since then. So pretty crazy. Let's talk about what is happening. So I did some research over on on Sports Illustrated and 24/7 and On3, and it's kind of tough because like On3 doesn't list the punter. Sports Illustrated and this other outlet that I was looking at kind of were different on the years of eligibility left, but I did my best to kind of piece together what the numbers look like. So let's go by position. Number one, quarterback. We're at, I'm going to say 1.5. And the reason I say 1.5, I firmly believe that Ethan Grunkmeyer will finalize this. Instead of just hitting you with the believe me, bro, for this to be reported where it's reported, I would be shocked if it doesn't happen. It will be, again, it will be national news if for some reason this doesn't work out. It would be some like 12th hour thing. Secondly, as pointed out by Hokie Law 8 on 24/7, I went ahead and I double checked this to make sure that it's correct. Ethan Grunkmeyer is now followed by the official Virginia Tech football account. He was not previously. So I know that's very like TMZ reporting type information, but again, I will be shocked and you all can be mad at me if Ethan Grunkmeyer does not end up as one of the quarterbacks on Virginia Tech's roster next year. We'll take a sip of water though. Who else do we have? Running back 1, that's Bill Davis. Wide receiver 3, tight end 2, and then the big guys. So offensive line, we added 3. Defensive line, we added 6. So that's 9 new faces out of the transfer portal coming to the line of scrimmage. Linebacker, so far, we're at 1 with Keon Wiley. Defensive back, we're at 2. A gentleman from Troy and UConn. And we also added a punter. Now, here is the eligibility that I have, and this eligibility is according to Sports Illustrated. So 12 of these 20 kids that we added have 3 to 4 years of eligibility left. 7 of them have 2 years left, and 1 has 1 year of eligibility left. The one being the wide receiver from Louisiana Lafayette. Is that correct? Am I right with that? Louisiana Tech has the 1 year of eligibility left. So according to Sports Illustrated, those are the numbers that I have. And where are they from? We have 8 players total coming from Penn State of the 20. And then we have 15 of the 20 are coming from the Power 5. So yes, 8 of that 15 are from Penn State, but 15 of the 20 players that we've added in the portal so far are coming from the Power 5. And every single non-Power 5 person we're bringing in has been productive as well. So here's kind of how I'm looking at it right now. So James Franklin has essentially completely re-recruited the last 2 recruiting classes. If you take a step back and you look at the last 2 recruiting classes, 2025 was ranked 42nd in composite, and 2024 was ranked 45th in composite. He essentially went in and he took some players that he really, really liked and honestly was at practice with and understands the scout and decided to recruit them to Penn State. So for everything that's being said about, oh, well, we're not getting as many starters from Penn State as you should be, we're getting players that he, number 1, chose to recruit, and number 2, watched go through spring ball, watched go through fall camp, watched go through the beginning of the season, and also has feedback from the coaches that are coming over with him to the end of the season to say, hey, this is a guy that we should still take. So if James Franklin is signing off on a guy essentially twice, I'm going to lean in trusting his judgment on bringing that player into the program. So there's that side of it. The second side of it is I also believe that we are going with upside over depth, or upside and depth over immediate playing time. So obviously a lot of the players that we're bringing in, especially at the edge position, maybe D-tackle, offensive tackle, they were either rotational players, haven't played yet, freshmen or sophomores, and Virginia Tech's budget is much higher. You had Tennessee talking about, man, we outbid essentially Tennessee for one of the players that we had gotten in this cycle. And I'm not saying that Virginia Tech is calling poor or playing poor. They're obviously putting their best foot forward and attacking the portal and doing a great job with it. But what I do think they're prioritizing is, instead of going out and paying a massive price tag for, hey, let's go out and let's get, the number 1 edge rusher from this school, or the number 1 edge rusher in the entire portal, and pay a huge premium for it. I think really what we're trying to do is, instead of us spending exorbitantly for one player, you're saying let's go out and let's get 3 or 4 players with that same amount of money, and obviously 1 or 2 of them are going to hit. In a great case scenario, maybe 3 or all of them hit. So that's kind of what I'm picking up on what they're doing. And I'm going to give an example, and I hate calling players out, but just to give you an example of you're not exactly sure that if you spend a bunch of money on one player for one position that it's going to work out. And that player that I'm going to talk about is Jaden Ott. Jaden Ott was the you cannot miss guy from Cal last year. I mean, you look at his sophomore season, he had 245 carries for 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns, averaged 5.3 yards per carry. Now his junior year at Cal had 116 carries for 385 yards. He was banged up. But then Oklahoma spends all of this money to bring in Jaden Ott. And it's a huge story, and it's a huge loss for Cal. And Oklahoma has their running back. And Oklahoma ended up fine. They went to the playoff. But Jaden Ott, who, good for him, probably got paid a ton of money, produced 21 carries and 68 yards for Oklahoma. No touchdowns. Look, if you're going to attack the portal in your first year as a head coach, whether you're a weathered head coach or whatever, I think it makes way more sense to go after kids with multiple years of eligibility and try to do your best to hit on a couple of evals versus just, for a lack of a better term, blowing the bank on one player and hoping it works out, hoping they don't get sick, and hoping they don't have a bad attitude. So, if I'm looking at this defensive end position in general, like between Kamari and Morgan and between, Javion Hillison and some of the guys we're bringing in from Penn State, some of the guys that are already here, like, I'm sure we can find a guy who's going to play and be good. So I'd much rather be bringing in three or four guys to compete for a position than bringing in one. And I think you guys get where I'm going with that now because I've said it 15 times. The only other news that we had is Caleb Spencer is returning, a junior linebacker for Virginia Tech, 67 tackles, 9 TFLs last year. Fired up that he's going to be back. So, again, you're probably sick of hearing me say it. It's just good news on good news on good news on good news. Every single day there's some sort of variation of good news, and that continues. So, those are the updates for the transfer portal. I'm just going to check my texts while we're on here to make sure that nothing else ridiculous happened. I do want to mention this too. Shout out to Radford and the Bobcats. Landon Clark. He is going from Elon to LSU. So I know a bunch of folks from Southwest Virginia. They're familiar with Landon Clark. I heard from Robert Irby's dad, a generational talent coming out of Southwest Virginia. I believe him. I mean, Lane Kiffin, look, he had to land a quarterback. I got kind of squirrely for him here in the portal with the way some things kind of shook out. But Landon Clark is going to be headed to LSU. And him going to LSU kind of points to me that we must feel pretty good about this Gronkmeyer situation. So I'll kind of leave it at that. Some things to keep an eye out for here. Benji Gosnell, I'm interested to see what he's going to do. I would love to have him back. Obviously, I think he was one of the most underutilized players on last year's season. Beginning of the season looked like he'd be featured, and then kind of we didn't the rest of the year. So I would love to see him back. And then just the 3 that I mentioned last time, we had Dalen Evans. He left Texas A&M. Wide receiver Matt Outen from Penn State. He's a freshman from Portsmouth, Virginia. 4-star out of high school prospect. Was a top 5 prospect, out of Virginia. And then wide receiver Quincy Porter from Ohio State. Wide receiver from Bergen Catholic, New Jersey, actually. And went into the portal as a do not contact. And also was mentioned as potentially being interested or pursued by Virginia Tech. Whatever that means. The do not tag. This do not tag thing, man. It's like, who the hell knows what that stuff means? Before we wrap this thing up and get on to a couple of other subjects, I do want to mention again our new sponsor. You're going to need a lawyer more often than you think. When you need legal help, you want to talk to a lawyer, not an answering service. That's why you should call Monroe Bird. Based out of Roanoke, Monroe Bird helps people with their personal injury cases and business disputes throughout Virginia. Give them a call at 540-283-9343. Again, that's 540-283-9343. Monroe Bird will earn your trust. Right up here in the, I don't know how it flips. Should be the left-hand corner, right up there at the top. Some other news before we get out of here. I know Virginia Tech beat Cal. The game was a migraine. Looked like we were going to lose it multiple times. Looked like we were giving it away multiple times. Looked like we'd win it multiple times. Thank God we got out of there with a 78-75 win. It was one of those games where it was like one of those like it's so over games. I do think that the reaction to the Stanford game was quite volatile, which was a bit frustrating. But we did find a way to win that game. That was huge. John Camden kind of bailed us out at the end of the game. Yes, that John Camden. Yes, John Camden. He was playing for Cal and was back in Cassell and just threw the ball out of bounds. And I actually don't think it was his fault. I think the player he was throwing it to kind of acted like he was going to go one way and tried to juke us out. And then John Camden was like, bro, where are you going? So anyway, they win that game. The men have SMU in Dallas on Wednesday and Notre Dame at home on Saturday. I will be at the game on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. So if you're going to be at the game on Saturday, drop it down in the replies. Let us know. Please do like and subscribe, by the way. Felt like it was a good time to ask. Y'all have been doing that. It is helpful. Thank y'all. Virginia Tech women's basketball beat Boston College 78-56 today, marking the 500th win in Castle Coliseum for the women's basketball program. And they beat Syracuse 77-57 earlier this week on Thursday in the whatever dome. I'm not really sure what that dome is called anymore. JMA Wireless or something like that. It's the Carrier Dome for me, and it'll remain the Carrier Dome. That's just how it's going to be. I'll take one question, letter from the lunch pail from Ryan Castle. This one's tough to answer, and it's probably my fault just because I haven't looked at the complete roster as it stands right now in terms of like snap counts and everything else. I feel pretty good about his question is what areas of the roster do I believe still need some help from the portal? My answer to that question is I defer to defensive back, probably. With the non-official announcement of Grunkmeyer, I'd say quarterback. I wouldn't feel good about bringing in one quarterback. I don't think we're bringing in one quarterback, so I'd mention that too. But that's what I'll go with. I'll go with defensive back. And again, that kind of just stems from, number one, injury. I like the two corners that we're bringing in, and I like some of the safety options we have. But especially at corner, like we got to have a little bit more depth at that position group. So, and then offensive line, defensive line, we brought in a ton of bodies. I feel good about that because we have enough good bodies in there and two really good coaches that'll find the talent in the room. So that's my answer, defensive back, I think. But I'll have a better answer for you as time goes on. The last thing that I'll say, I do want to shout out John and Courtney Yetzi. Juliana and I actually headed down to Duke and sat literally fourth row at Cameron Indoor Stadium to watch the SMU game. We're going to do a podcast to talk about kind of our experience. It was my first time at Cameron Indoor. It was her first time at Cameron Indoor for a basketball game. Her father played baseball at Duke back in the day. But neither of us had taken in a game there. Incredible experience. Really, really awesome. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be similar to what we did kind of with that night game at LSU experience, and looking forward to that. But that's it. I wanted to be quick today, about 25 minutes. If you're still here, drop in the replies what you hope to still see out of the transfer portal if you're a Virginia Tech fan. If you're not a Virginia Tech fan, let us know what you think from the outside looking in. What are you thinking about the Hokies? We're certainly excited. Again, thrilled to have James Franklin as our coach. This is as fun as we have had in a very long time. But other than that, everybody have a fantastic week. Hope to see some of y'all in Blacksburg, and take care.